We all love stories about spies, espionage. Through the centuries, information is the most valuable commodity in life, business, and the war. Do you ask yourself sometimes question how the industries across the globe have the similar product? Well, answer is very simple. There is another discipline of espionage which you are witnessing daily through your work. Yes, you, but you have no idea it's happening around you. It's called industrial espionage. I spent most of my life working in intelligence sector, in foreign intelligence to be precise. And today I want to share with you the one operation happened in the Cold War, not so long time ago. And this is lesson you can learn how one country against another country doing industrial espionage, not just espionage, not just collecting the data, informations, so they do analysis, dissemination, recommendation, using intelligence cycle. But this time, it's agencies versus agency, country versus country, sabotaging each other through the industrial espionage methods. Today, we're going to talk about Operation Entering, FBI secret sabotage campaign against Moscow tech spies. But before we dig deep into this topic, let me share with you some data. Industrial espionage is a significant issue today. It costs global economies an estimated $500 billion annually. $500 billion. This illegal practice affects various industries, including technology and defense. Now, if you put this in the context of the Russia-Ukraine war, cyber espionage is particularly rampant with state-sponsored actors targeting intellectual property and trade secrets. Industrial espionage impacts national securities across the globe because sensitive information can enhance the military capabilities of adversarial nations, influencing both Russia's war effort and Ukraine defense strategies, or any other countries across the globe. Industrial or corporate espionage is more frequently national in nature and takes place between the businesses or firms, where political espionage is carried out or coordinated by the governments and has an international scope. That being said, obtaining intellectual property such as knowledge of industrial manufacturing, concept, methods, and formulas can be considered a kind of industrial espionage. It happens today across the globe every single moment. Alternatively, it can entail the isolation of confidential or operational data, such as pricing, sales, marketing, research, development policies, customer data sets, potential bids, planning or marketing plans, or maybe shifting manufacturing sites and composition. So, as much as you think that information you have in your possession means nothing or little, it's not true. Now, it might cover things like a trade secret, theft, bribery, blackmailing, electronic spying. In addition to prior companies, government can be target of espionage operations daily. Why I'm saying all of this to you? Ready? A few days ago, there was a long-kept secret about Cold War era political and industrial espionage came to light. It's a literally long-kept secret. You can't find many informations. But for you, for my channel Life the Battlefield, I did. For those who don't know me, my name is Bekes, and I'd like to welcome you, all of you risk takers and truth seekers, to this podcast Life the Battlefield, where we explore life's biggest challenges and victories. And for those who don't know, I hold the Guinness World Record for the longest audio broadcast. I spent 1,800 consecutive combat days in a war for independence and freedom. And as well, I'm the best-selling author. And now, let's go dig deep into the something you never heard before, Operation Entering. Let's go talk about Entering Operation. The US prohibited the transfer of dual-use technology or goods having both military and civilian uses to the Soviet Union for many years. That was the height of the Cold War. Sanctions intensified further after the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan at the end of 1979. By the early 1980s, the FBI knew that the Soviet Union was in dire needs of US-made microchips, which at the time were transforming a wide range of digital equipment, including military systems. Moscow spies were hard at work filtering or secretly acquiring such dual-purpose technologies. It was essential for Soviet space shuttles, air defense systems, ballistic missiles programs, and electronic espionage platforms. The very reason that Soviets considered infiltrating Silicon Valley was to gain as much access to this technology as possible. Moscow spies illegally obtained thousands of pieces of Western microelectronics worth hundreds of millions of dollars in the late 1970s, according to the WHO, of course, CIA estimates. Despite the ongoing confrontation between Russia and Ukraine, Russian intelligence services continue to search the globe for prohibited American technology. The current sanctions have temporarily restricted, but not entirely prevented the flow of prohibited commodities. Russia has even imported appliances like washing machines and refrigerators in order to remove microchips for use in military hardware, according to reports. Almost all countries engage in this practice. The nature of industrial espionage varies for each nation. Let's go talk about sabotage. Technology-focused sanctions given US and foreign intelligence services are chains to start extremely covert sabotage operations aimed at changing critical technologies before they got to their intended target. US covert activity in this region has a long, sordid history. A White House initiative to penetrate Soviet supply channels for technology may have resulted in 1982 explosion of the major oil pipeline in Siberia. Additionally, US intelligence services has been in charge of planes to destroy North Korea's missile capability and implant defective technology into Iran's nuclear enrichment and missile programs. However, the majority of sabotage activities remain hidden from public view, and little is known about their actual mechanism. The US intelligence services are currently looking at ways to break into Russia's illicit supply network in order to halt their war machine, since relations between the two countries are at an all-time low, possibly the lowest since 1980s. Let's go talk now about character called Austrian. In the Green Cove Hollow district of San Francisco, an FBI agent named Rick Smith entered the Balboa Cafe early one morning in 1980. He recognized a familiar face as he walked up to the bar, placed his drink order, someone Smith had met a year prior. Although the man was born in Austria, he lived in Silicon Valley and was an entrepreneur who served as a go-between for American software firms and European nations eager to acquire the latest high-tech goods. Attempting to deal with the Soviets did not seem particularly suspicious at the time. For instance, lawful trade between the US and Soviet Union totaled $4.5 billion in 1979, of which $200 million was in high-tech goods. Attempting to deal with Soviets did not seem particularly suspicious at the time. But Smith was already prepared for this meeting. That's according to the story. He had already tracked this guy named or codename Austrian. Smith and the Austrian identified commonalities during the first meeting. The Austrian was a well-mannered, well-educated and bodily man. In addition to his native German, he was proficient speaker of English and keen skier. Thus, through the discussion, Smith didn't need to say much to persuade Austrian. That evening over cocktails, two began formulating a plan which they refined over several meetings in ensuing months. Under the FBI instructions, the Austrian volunteered to pose as a thief, willing to sell technology that was prohibited to the communist Eastern Bloc. Operation Interreg, a large multi-year transcontinental operation that had never been publicized before, was about to begin. This operation was never been publicized before. Moscow and its allies would receive a defective technology from the FBI and Austria. Empty the Soviet bloc coffers reveals to American counter-spies exactly what technologies they are pursuing and expose the intelligence officials and covert American accomplices. The Soviet bloc would unintentionally purchase millions of dollars worth of American items that had been tampered with the Interring. Communist spies, on the other hand, unaware of their deception, will receive a genuine parade in the Warsaw Pact capital as a reward for successfully securing this forbidden technology from the West. However, as the operation gathered steam, it became riskier, risking more than just Austrian life. Cooperation, careful preparation, and a little bit of luck are necessary for double agent operations to be successful. The Bureau FBI initially attempted to obtain its new assets by collaborating with a few gullible Soviet officials on board. Naturally, this was easier said than done because the Soviet diplomats and intelligence spies were always on the lookout for Western spies. The Austrian was not a trained spy, so initially he needed some guidance from his FBI supervisors. The FBI returned to the Austrian to Vienna, the main Cold War espionage hub. Both communist and Western officials could not operate in the city without a certain degree of confidence and safety because it was neutral territory. The Austrian arranged a meeting with the Soviet embassy and got ready to pitch state of the art, computer and microelectronic technologies in Moscow, Silicon Valley. Initially, the Austrian drew little attention from the Moscow spies. Although they showed some curiosity, there remained requests for secret information which was unable to provide. The Austrian technology appeared to be of no interest to the Soviets, who instead gave it to the partner in the Eastern Bloc. It was all charade. The Soviet goal was to get a plane past the allies in Eastern Bloc, not to obtain the microelectronics or other banned technology. And of course, that leads us to the Bulgarian ties. The East Germans brought the Bulgarians another ally from the Soviet bloc. However, American intelligence was aware that Moscow would be the final user of this prohibited technology. Using its associate services, the KGB distanced itself from these technology transfer activities. As a result, the Russians were able to pursue other espionage targets with greater resources. Moscow knew that Western nations did not scrutinize trade with Eastern European nations as much as with the Soviet Union. The Austrian ties now offer a fantastic opportunity. The plan was for the Bulgarians, in collaboration with the Russians and East German allies, to acquire the banned technology, but not before the FBI took the initiative. It took some time to get business started, but 1982 Interring was operating at full capacity. It was more than agency could handle. In collaboration with other foreign and US government organizations, technical specialists were required. To disrupt the paths en route to the Bulgarians, the FBI also needed to establish a specific location. The key transshipment hub was London, where US officials intercepted and occasionally discreetly modified the hardware. The operation took place across continents and nations. US officials received information from the East German electronic industry employee who was an undercover US intelligence source. The primary route for supply was through a technology broker based in Netherlands. The Bulgarian used a dummy business name Inco to import prohibited technology. One shipper base was in Toronto, Canada. Cosmotrans, a crucial intermediary for the Bulgarians, owned a warehouse in Zurich, Switzerland. In certain cases, the cargoes seemed to straddle China. Every nation intelligence services were actively involved and working to the fullest extent possible. Furthermore, the operation appeared to be a huge benefit for the Bulgarians and implicit for Soviet overlords. American intelligence had no trouble determining that the Soviets had intention beyond simply figuring on lawfully acquiring Western microelectronics to integrate into their military gear. Their goal was to covertly imitate the whole computer industry in the United States. In fact, by 1981, covert agreements between Soviets and Bulgarian intelligence services allowed Bulgarian spies to get high-tech, export-banned machine tools that were required by Russian firms to produce data storage devices and other modern manufacturing products. The FBI started providing Bulgarians with disk drive testing equipment in 1982. Thanks to the disk drives, computers can now permanently store and retrieve data. The Bureau mediated an arrangement to supply hard disk coating equipment to the Eastern Bloc through an Austrian business. Additionally, the FBI sold crucial equipment for making magnetic drives, servo writers, to the Bulgarian in secret. However, in 1983, the FBI shipped a second cargo of servo printers to the Bulgarians at a cost of $250,000, despite the compromise of the first shipment. The FBI sent $3 million worth of computer equipment to the Eastern Bloc in the same year. The FBI was in charge of numerous such shipments. They quietly altered the some of the technology before the Bulgarian could obtain. Some are useless at all. The Eastern Bloc received a part of its purest form to keep things moving forward and allay any doubts. The manufacturers of this equipment were unaware that their products were being used in transatlantic espionage game, literally espionage game, to sold to the Eastern Bloc, likely illegally. And of course, that leads us to the spy games. It took a lot of work to execute the internship program. FBI agent stationed in San Francisco could not do it on their own. The enterprise was too big, too intricate, and too delicate to oversee from one office. It was also necessary to involve Washington. Hence, approvals required from the Department of Justice, the Pentagon, and the White House. However, not every Washington player agreed with this. Even though a large portion of the equipment was unapproved, Defense Department officials were worried about delivering prohibited American technology to Moscow. The government claimed the Pentagon frequently viewed double-agent technology transfer activities with skepticism. Uninformed, it seemed as though the FBI was giving America geopolitical adversaries access to the state-of-art technology. Other technologies had to work if some components were compromised. There were always the danger, a genuine fear that operation meant to deter US rivals might unintentionally gain from the transfer of so much intact technology. And what if some modified technology provided during the interning was sufficiently tampered with the stop to use it, as some officials fear? The FBI adapted technology in various ways. During the lengthy travel to Eastern Bloc, several experienced what seems to be accidental wear and tear. In other instances, when Soviet bloc agents turn on equipment, the FBI will interfere with them, causing accidental voltage overloads. Subdued forms of sabotage can gradually erode machine components or microchips or create highly sophisticated instruments that require a high degree of precision but barely noticeable. In each of these instances, the agency had to hope that the sabotage efforts were successful enough to genuinely stop the shipments, if not successful enough to raise red flags. What about technology which remains untouched? Well, the FBI need to provide the Soviet bloc with the high-tech equipment. After all the Austrian needed to supply the right items to win over his partners on the other side to survive. So, what were FBI officials thinking, and what was the right proportion of modified to unmodified technology required to keep up that patents? These operations have always entailed additional risk, including the potential for human casualties. The intelligence service could compromise such equipment, endangering innocent lives. Just a few of the potential consequences of burned-out electricity grid in the wintertime include road accidents, massive fires, and people freezing to death. In the end, the FBI came to believe that technology was intended only for the Soviet military and intelligence services, not for use in infrastructure or general public. For his part, the Austrian had to stay under wraps and continue to prove his credential to his Soviet bloc interlocutors, all the while fulfilling the obligation to supply subpar goods on behalf of foreign intelligence operative that was interfering. That threat quickly became more than just theoretical worry. By 1983, interning was fully operational. Two Bulgarian intelligence operatives who oversaw the technology transfer operation on Moscow behalf were a close friend with the Austrian. He received payment. The credit for obtaining this state-of-the-art technology from the United States went to Bulgarian spies, and that requires parade. In celebration of their triumph, the Bulgarians put together a parade. A real parade of the equipment they purchased from the Austrian service provider in San Francisco. The FBI in London, however, tampered with the cargo. Everything was useless. What we wanted to do, to design a process but give them fake stuff to discredit them, Smith explained. The Bulgarian spy, overcome with embarrassment, insisted on meeting with the Austrian in Vienna. That's when the FBI began to receive alarm calls. They were furious, Smith remarked. They informed him that either the FBI had compromised him, leading to alteration, or he had been involved from the outset. He was involved right from the start. Operatives from the Bulgaria insisted that the Austrian come to Sofia in Bulgaria for more discussion. Smith remembered that this was out of question. The Bulgarian side was more than just threatening empty words. It's uncertain what actions the Austrian and his Soviet allies might take if they agree to travel across the Iron Curtain to Sofia. Bulgaria's adversaries faced a danger in the west. In 1978, Sofia agents killed a well-known dissident in the streets of London while he was carrying an umbrella with poisoned tip. The FBI agent no longer posed a risk to the Austrian. He was revealed. Operation Entering successfully playing Sabotage Electronics worth $1 million to Moscow and its allies. However, it was now finished. Federal authorities in South California prosecuted a whole covert network of illicit technology exporters in 1983. The indicted individuals included 2 Californians who served as a Network America supplier, as a Dutch collaborator, and 2 government officials from Bulgaria. A few years later, there was another such indictment against illicit technology exporters. When California authorities dismantled these Bulgarian technology export networks, they made no mention of interference. There was no mention of compromised computer hardware. There was absolutely no mention of the Austrian. And to those who collaborated closely with him, the Austrian remained a mystery too, as if he were some sort of phantom presence watching over these prosecutions with invisible eyes. Why did he accept the FBI offer to work undercover? Even the FBI agents who handled the case are not fully sure why he did what he did. Did he do this out of pure enjoyment and because, like the majority of Austrians, he despised Russians? Operatives in counterintelligence field are accustomed to dealing with a wide range of individuals, including mercenaries, altruists, benefactors, and honest and dishonest people. In many ways, the Austrian served as an example. However, FBI officials also understood that the Austrian was primarily concerned with his own objectives, which might not always coincide with the FBI. The FBI couldn't track down all the foreign works from their source. That uneased them. What if the FBI was unaware of Austrians' business dealing with the Bulgarians or other nations in the Eastern Bloc? However, through the entire situation, the Austrian performed admirably. He made money twice, one as an FBI asset and again as an alleged Eastern Bloc spy, selling profitable but illegal high-tech products. The Bureau ultimately awarded the Austrian around $100,000 for his service as a US intelligence asset. To them, it was well worth the expense. He eventually made his way back to Europe following the end of Cold War and made a sizable fortune there in real estate. Finally, I'd like to know who the Austrian was.